All right, this is not a book. Actually, it is a book, but it's not referred to as a book within the book. It's actually referred to as a training program. And so this book is like a training program, essentially, and it walks through a lot of different things. So the book of the day is The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. And we are going to talk a little bit about the book, but more importantly than the contents that are within this book, I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. And if you don't know, I read one book per day, Monday through Friday, sometimes more. It's about 260 books per year. And a lot of people can't read a book a day because maybe they're too busy or life is going on or whatever. Like things are going on, right? There's seasons, and people are going through things, whatever. But if you cannot read a book a day, then what I'm about to talk about would be potentially helpful to you. Because if you can't read a book a day, you can read one book this year. And so instead of reading a high number of books, which is something that I absolutely believe in, but if you can't commit to doing that, one thing you could consider doing is getting one book that has a lot of the foundational things needed in order to, improve yourself so that you can get the life that you desire. And master every single thing that's within it. And so it's a little bit of a different strategy than what I'm doing right now, although I have done this. I've done this this last year. I did this with a book. And, I didn't really read any other books during that period. I just read one. I read it over and over again, and I really, studied and dissected it. And there are definitely times to do that. So if you can't read a book a day, maybe you could pick up a book like this. I'm going to give you 3 books that I'll show you 3 books today that I think are potentials for you to consider. And you can master everything that is within those books. And that means reading it extremely well, taking notes, and there's a few tactics that we'll talk about. So this book specifically, we'll go through a couple of things here. This is a book that I'm actually going to be kind of reading on an ongoing basis over the next... probably just over the next 2 weeks. Okay. So inside of it, basically, there are 15 lessons from Napoleon Hill. If you don't know who Napoleon Hill is, he interviewed for 20 years straight, he interviewed the most successful people in the world and figured out what made them successful and also what made them not successful. So, and he was very well connected. He was connected with Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie, he, was one of the richest men in the world at the time and had access to all the most successful people. And success doesn't necessarily mean money, by the way, which is talked about inside of this book. Okay, but a couple of the lessons, and basically this is like a whole training program that's designed to help you basically master your mind. Because if you can master your mind, you can really accomplish anything, right? So it's called The Law of Success. A couple of the lessons... I'll just read off a couple of them. Okay. A definite chief aim, self-confidence, the habit of saving, the initiative of leadership, imagination, enthusiasm, self-control, habit of doing more than paid for, pleasing personality, accurate thought, concentration, cooperation, failure tolerance, and the golden rule, right? And so these are all of the lessons that are here within this book. So I'll talk about one that stood out to me today. It was lesson number 3, and it's the habit of saving. And so inside of the book, he talks about the difference between people who have acquired the skill and created the habit of saving versus the people who do not save, right? And by the way, just so you know, when I was young, I was good at saving. And when I got a little bit older and I got into business for myself, I had lost that habit. And so I had to retrain myself, which is where I am now, to get even better at saving than I ever have been, right? And so it's something that we all have to work on all the time. And if you haven't saved or you're not exactly where you want to be today, totally okay. This book talks about, in this chapter actually, and in this lesson, it talks about how it doesn't necessarily come down to how much, but it does come down to getting into the habit of saving. And so there's a couple of things we can talk about with this. Number one is Parkinson's law, right? Which says that expenses rise to meet income. That is a typical rule in a law. And basically what that means is the more money people make, the more they spend on stuff, which was something that was that actually happened in several stories within this book when he was talking about the habit of saving. And so, it's something that can get all of us, and it's something that we have to, I believe that it's something that we have to get under control right now. Because if we think about it, if we don't have this under control, how can we go out, produce and earn a lot of money and income if finance is a goal of yours, right? Which it doesn't have to be, but if it is a goal of yours, then we go out and make all that money, and then Parkinson's law hits us, right? And so our income rises, and so do our expenses. They rise and they meet our income. So the idea here is that we need to create and become savers. And, he talks about in the book how it's not all about, spending and, living the high life, right? There is a time and a place for all of that. It doesn't mean you can't have nice things and you can't do fun things. It doesn't mean that. But what it means is that we live within our means and that we get into a serious habit and commitment to saving a portion of our income. And so he goes over a few strategies inside of here. I think we've been talking a lot about financials lately, and particularly, saving, living on less than we make, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we'll go into that, but that was one of them. Another one was self-confidence, and how it is really important for us to have self-confidence when we're going out and going after everything. And it's also important, he talks about in the book, if you're married, to give your spouse self-confidence, because there's no one else who will benefit more than your family if you are injecting your family with positivity, encouragement, and helping to create that self-esteem. And, a lot of times when things get hard, sometimes there can be arguments that happen inside of a household, right? I've been guilty of doing that many times. But the idea here, and one of my key takeaways, is that the people who you're closest with, the people who you love, your family, if you're married, that's your spouse, really instilling that self-confidence in your spouse or whatever, and it will come back around to you as well too. It's like one of those just like win-win-win situations. Like you're benefiting your family, then your family comes back and benefits you, right? And so, but self-confidence is extremely important, because if you or I do not think that we can accomplish whatever it is that we're about to set out and do, then we might as well not get out there and do it, because we're probably not going to accomplish it. And so we have to first believe that we can accomplish what we want to accomplish and what we're about to go out there to do. And I know sometimes we go through rough patches and we get knocked down time and time again. And that, it's actually, it's actually kind of scientific, actually. The more that you lose, the harder it gets for you to be able to get up and get out there again. And so if we're constantly getting knocked down and we're constantly losing, it actually does get very challenging. Like our body becomes less receptive to being able to deal with those types of situations, right? Because we want to avoid that. But regardless of that, we got to just use our minds to just overcome it and just power through it. Is kind of just, let me get right to the point of it. Okay, anyways, so I'll just talk about those two, because I want to talk about this other thing because I think it's more important, because it's all going to tie itself together. But anyway, so basically this book consists of 15 lessons, and supposedly these 15 lessons, if you master them, you will essentially master your mind. And if you can master your mind, you can get out there and do anything that you want. And so this is going to be a book that I'm going to be doing what I'll talk about next. So if you're not able to read a book a day, and you can, though, read one book over the next 6 months, few weeks, year, doesn't matter. Get a book like this one. I'll show you two others in a second, and master it. Okay, so 2 other books. If you didn't want to do this one, here's another book. and it's called Super Thinking, the Big Book of Mental Models by Gabriel Weinberg and Lauren McCann. This book consists of 300 mental models. What is a mental model? A mental model is basically a framework for making decisions. Charlie Munger says that you don't need too many mental models, but you need a handful of them because you'll use them over and over and over again. And essentially what it allows you to do is to become a world-class decision maker, to make good decisions quickly. And that's everything in this world. And so this would be one of those books, for example. So think about it. Every single day, you go through and you pick out 3 to 5, 3 mental models, right? So there's 300 total. You do 3 a day. Okay, that's 100 days, a little over 3 months. And you learn 3 mental models per day. So there's that book. Another book. This is the condensed version, but it is called the 48. This is the concise 48 Laws of Power, but there is the full book, 48 Laws of Power. And, I don't necessarily agree with everything, but I still think that there's a lot in here that you can take away that is, is good to know. And so 48 Laws of Power, 48, do that in less than 2 months, right? Do 1 law per day. And you memorize these things inside and out and start to really add them into your mind. Okay, so there's 3 books that we just talked about. Okay, on the Law of Success, how I'm going to do this one, by the way. This one has 15 lessons. I think I'll probably try to get, I'll probably try to extract out, there's kind of a lot in here. I'll probably try to extract out 3 to 5 golden nuggets per lesson, right? So that's 45 to 5 times 15, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, right? And so that's what I'm going to be doing is each day trying to extract out 3 to 5 golden nuggets. So I'll probably do it over the course of 2 weeks is how I'll do this one. This one I've read this one a couple of times, the Super Thinking, but the reason why I haven't done what I'm about to show you with this one is because I kind of wanted to make like a little training program thing that talks about mental models. And, so I've kind of been procrastinating as I try to figure out how to roll something like that out. I did start it with the 48 Laws of Power. Anyways, so let's talk about how you can do this practically. So number 1, you obviously need to get a copy of the book. I recommend you just buy it. Obviously you can go to the library and do that too. But for example, I actually read this book first at the library. And then I bought it because it was that good for me. So once you find a book like that, how are we going to learn it? Well, obviously we're going to read it. Okay, so you can go through and read it, and you can just pick a chapter to go through a week if you can't, commit to doing that much, But if you can, try, a chapter a day is great. But what we're going to be doing is we are going to be taking information and putting them onto index cards from these books. And so, for example, I use index cards all the time. There's things that I am constantly going through. So you will make the most money if you don't have any of these. Stubborn, proud, sensitive. If you're not stubborn, if you're not proud, and if you're not sensitive. Okay, that was told to me by a mentor of mine. As Tillman Fertitta would say, you better know your numbers. Classic. What does that mean? It means you need to know your numbers inside and out. If I, was talking to you right now and I asked you, hey, what do your numbers look like for your business or for your job or whatever? Do you know what they are off the top of your head? And how well do you know them? And are they exact? Do you know them down to the cent? Do you have some advanced accounting software that can calculate all different types of reports? Can you do a cash flow statement? Can you generate a profit and loss? Can you generate that stuff pretty quickly too? Can you do a balance sheet? Do you know the difference between cash accounting and accrual accounting? Do you know what GAAP accounting is? Generally accepted accounting principles. So these are the types of things that I'm putting onto my flashcards because these are relevant for me and my business. Whether you're in business or not, doesn't matter. You can still put this stuff on here. Let's see here. So I just I'm looking through these now. So I'm looking through these several times a day. I'm finding things in books and I'm putting them onto flashcards. I'm taking training programs and I'm putting key takeaways into my flashcards. I'm in a few masterminds and I, am listening on these calls and interacting on these calls, right? Of course. And I'm also taking notes on things that are great ideas. One thing I got from a mastermind recently is called the bald eagle framework, right? You never know what will work, so test a lot and see what sticks, right? And so that probably won't mean anything to you. That's fine. Here's another big one. Pain versus reward, okay? Pain motivates less than reward. This is perfect for marketing, but it also could do with parenting. I use this with my kids. Trust me, my preferred method is if I can just threaten them and they will listen, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Giving them reward, though, works like crazy. And if you do, a little bit of a balance between, some consequences, some negative consequences, and some rewards, if you do a balance between those two and put them together and mix them, it's deadly. They'll listen, right? Parkinson's law, we were talking about that. Let's see here. So you kind of get the point, but let me show you one more thing here. We'll kind of wrap up in a second. I know you're probably busy, but so I started doing this with the 48 Laws of Power. Okay, so I've read the whole book, the bigger version of the book, but now what I'm doing is I'm going back. I'm on law number 8. And so all I'm doing is I am just writing down the laws each day. I'm looking at them and I'm remembering them. Now, sometimes there are things that I don't understand. Like a lot of them are self-explanatory. Law number 1, never outshine the master. That means like if you have a job, for example, and you have a boss, and even if you do something that's right and better than the boss, and it's just something that's good, still credit your boss. Even if it makes you not look as strong and as good, that's okay, right? Never outshine the master. There will be a time where you get promoted or rise up above them. But if you make your superiors look better than they are, which is easy to do if you are excellent, then, you're not going to have, naturally things will take its place. This book talks about an example of that. But let's see here. There's some. Never put too much trust in friends and learn how to use enemies. Friends will often say, so this one kind of confused me because it's like, never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. What does that even mean? It doesn't necessarily mean what you think. Friends will often say they love X. They love your new song that you wrote. They love your new business idea. They love, whatever. Sometimes they mean it. Often they don't, right? So the idea is never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies, right? An enemy's not going to care or hurt your feelings. They're going to tell you exactly what they feel about something. So if you're launching a new product, it's good to know. Anyways, so I'll kind of digress on that. But how you can do this is if you get a book like this, just get some index cards and go at whatever pace you can do. I always recommend you push it a little bit because there's nothing that's a better investment than one's mind, right? Me looking at my flashcards every single day, looking at the different things and concepts that I'm learning as I'm reading. I mean, what's better than this? You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. Maybe it doesn't help tomorrow if you started today. But if you start today and you do it for 30 years, think about how advanced you'll be. And think about how far you would have gotten in the meantime anyways, because you'll know how to think, you'll know how to talk, you'll know how to research, you'll know a lot. And so, yeah, it's not going to do a whole lot right this second, but that's okay. We don't need it to happen right this second. We just need to do the right things and let time take its course naturally. Guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I look forward to talking to you guys in the next one.